Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven, and I am your host, as always. Joining me are my guys, Tyler and Alex. Alex, we'll start with you, man. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good. One more day till the tonight. We're doing one more day till the draft, and prepared for the live stream. Hopefully,
It's almost nighttime for you, I guess. It's 1 p.m. for me. I don't know why I said
yeah,
tonight.
4:01. But yeah, not nighttime for you guys yet.
Force of habit. Tyler's here as well, man. Tyler, how you doing?
I don't know what's going to be daytime or nighttime. I'm leaving at 3 in the morning to get to the airport to make sure I'm there in time for Steven. So I'll be driving to Vegas, probably by myself on the road, maybe some random truck drivers or something. But yeah, I can't wait to be there. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Tyler and Tyler's family hosting us for draft weekend. So can't wait to really participate in all of that. So we are going to talk today about our all underrated team, players that we feel like are potentially day 2 guys, day 3 guys that really should be going earlier than the consensus has them. So really excited about that. This was kind of an idea of mine that I had sparked by an article that I wrote for LAFB. So, but I wanted to give the chance to Tyler and Alex to be able to mention that as well. Before we get there, though, we are going to talk about kind of the latest pre-draft buzz. Apparently Sean Merriman's trying to say that there's going to be another trade or something like that. We'll see, but never say never, I guess. But before we get there, there's just a bunch of stories and articles coming out now as we are kind of 28 hours away from the start of the 2022 draft. So wanted to discuss some things. And I think one of the things that, of course, people are very interested in is what the Chargers could do in terms of sticking and picking at 17, trading back, or what have you. So Tom Telesco, of course, had his pre-draft press conference, mentioned trading back quite a lot. And then he had a little interview with Haley Elwood where he mentioned it again. So we talked a little bit about this on our Twitter Spaces last night. But Tyler, what do you make of the Chargers potentially trading back or him feeling what seems very comfortable of sticking and picking at 17?
I always advocate for trading back. However, if the draft reveals one guy slips out of that top 15, you project to go there at 17. If they want to stay and pick, that's fine. I think at this point it is defensive back, and I think one of those guys they like is going to be there. So I think they're going to stick and pick. Again, I would prefer to trade back, but I understand staying, and I don't expect Telesco to trade back at all.
Yeah, I talked on when we did the stream yesterday, the Spaces yesterday, and someone asked a question about Telesco trading back, and I was like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But I actually did watch the interview with Haley Elwood this morning, and he did mention it quite a few times. I don't think they are going to trade back, but if there was a year, this kind of would be the weird middle ground year to kind of do it. But at the end of the day, my gut feeling tells me that they stay at pick 17 and that the pick is ultimately probably Trevor Penning or a corner. That's sort of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, Arjun in the chat saying trade down no matter what. Of course, referencing draft day. I tend to agree there. It's really interesting because there's a lot of buzz about linebacker to the Chargers at 17 right now. Tom Pelissero was saying that a lot of people expect Quay Walker, the linebacker from Georgia, to be the first linebacker off the board and to be a top 20 selection. There's obviously a lot of Trent McDuffie buzz. I heard yesterday about the Kyler Gordon situation. Pelissero is also saying that we should expect Kyer Elam to be the 4th corner off the board. So, Tom Telesco said in really my big takeaway from his press conference and the interview is that they feel pretty confident that they're going to get the player that they want at 17 and not have to trade up to get him. And if they can trade back and get him, then they'll explore that. But I think that Tom Telesco, my interpretation of it is that they have, 4 or 5 guys that they feel comfortable with at 17. If they're there, they'll take them. If not, if all of those players are gone, then I think at that point they would consider a trade back.
Yeah, completely agree. Guess we'll see tomorrow.
Yep.
So I guess, of course, the other thing, the opposite side of that spectrum, right, is that I think it was Jim Trotter saying that the Texans are considering trading down from 13. Ian Rappaport was suggesting that basically picks 10 through 14 are up for grabs at this point for teams trying to trade up. Alex, what do you make of that potential scenario? if somebody that you like falls and you maybe kind of trading up to 13 with the Texans or Vikings at 12 or something like that.
Yeah, it could be with the Vikings at 12. I think Ravens at 14 is kind of another possible one. I think that's probably the end of the list, though, because I think the Saints are where they are at this point in the draft, and I think the Eagles, if anything, are looking to trade up, it sounds like. So I think anywhere from 12 to 14 is where they theoretically could. I don't think they will, though. I think it's more likely they would trade down than trade up, unless Derek Stingley or someone like that has some kind of drastic fall. But even if they do, if you're Baltimore, do you want to trade down with the Chargers and give them Derek Stingley, or do you just want to take him yourself, right? So same thing with Jameson Williams and all these other potential fall players. So I think that's kind of the quandary that the Chargers just find themselves in right now. Would like it if it's the right player. Obviously, I've heard the nightmare scenario of them potentially trading up and leaping the Saints for Trevor Penning, which gives me angina. Not the most fun scenario in the world, but yeah, I'm not super happy about that one. But I don't think they end up trading up at the end of the day. And based on Telesco's comments, particularly this year, I do really think this is the first time it's more likely they trade down.
Yeah, I would agree there. I guess I never considered it as, compare the two, trading up, trading down, which one's more likely. I do think trading down is more likely. It feels like there's a small chance they could trade down, but it feels like there's no chance they're trading up. It just doesn't seem like they're going to do that this year. So even if there's a player there, it's going to be very hard to watch. Jameson Williams, maybe even go the pick before the Chargers. But yeah, I just don't think they're going to trade up for one particular player.
Yeah, I think when it comes to trading up, like a lot of these teams are going to be trading up for a receiver, trading up for a quarterback. Daniel Jeremiah reportedly apparently thinks that there's going to be 4 wide receivers taken in the top 12, which would just be, I could see it, right? Like there's so much unknown in this draft, but really where are those 4 players going unless that means teams are trading up? So, like if you're the Texans, right, and you have an offer from the Steelers, let's say, and they're interested in giving you 20 and a second round pick to come up and get a quarterback. Maybe they get a tackle, whatever, or the Saints give you 19 and this year's second to come up and get one of the tackles. And the Chargers are like, well, I'll give you, 17 and next year's second. It's like, really, like, what offer would you rather have? And I think the Texans would rather have the picks this year to kind of take advantage of that depth.
So the Texans have the second pick?
The Texans have 3 and 13.
3 and 13. Okay.
So basically, the report was that they are 99% going to take a pick at 3.
Okay.
Unless some team just like blows them away with a trade offer.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to trade down. Apparently, Nick Casario hates the teens of this draft and wants to just kind of stockpile multiple picks and get a ton of draft picks. And frankly, they need more picks, right? Like they have so many holes on the PFF simulator. It says their draft teams are literally everything. So if you're the Texans, right, and somebody wants to come up to get a bidding war for a quarterback, then you gladly take that, and then you can kind of trade down and see who's there. Unfortunately for the Chargers, that kind of leaves them on the outside looking in because they don't have the capital to compete in a bidding war, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think also if we're talking about trading up a couple spots versus trading up a significant amount, say in 6 to 8 range, I think it would probably have to be the latter because they would have to sacrifice next year's first if they're willing to make any trade rather than, obviously you can't trade this year's second and no one cares about next year's second, right? I think it would really only be a team that, like the Eagles Saints trade, would want that next year's first rather than the draft position they're currently holding.
Yeah. So interesting question from our guy Kevin here. If we traded back, say, to the mid-20s, who would you guys rather take? Gordon out of Washington, that's Kyler Gordon, the corner, or Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan? So for those who missed our Twitter spaces, I did report yesterday that the Chargers are interested in both Washington corners, not just Trent McDuffie, that Kyler Gordon is in play in the first round for them, whether that's 17 or via trade back, I think is legitimate. And listen, I think Gordon is a very interesting corner prospect. I think you could make an argument that he could have the highest ceiling out of anyone outside of the top 2 guys just because of his athletic traits, because of his length and his size and his physicality. And he only had 1 year starting at Washington as opposed to McDuffie, who I feel like is basically tapped out at this point. That said, what do you guys make of Kevin's question here? Trade to the mid-20s. Are you taking Kyler Gordon or are you taking Daxton Hill?
I think in that scenario, I'm taking Daxton Hill just because, I mean, the versatility there. Obviously, you're getting the second, or some people think first best safety in this class, pairing him with Derwin James. That is a lot. And also, he can play cornerback himself, in some spot roles versus I think with Kyler Gordon, you're kind of envisioning him as like a Michael Davis replacement, right? He would
Sure.
probably be more strictly your outside corner McDuffie, more your slot all around the field guy. So I would just kind of value, the efficiency of someone like Daxton Hill and value his, potential and his ceiling more than I would Kyler Gordon. But I do think Kyler Gordon would be a good pick if they were to actually trade back in the mid-20s as well.
Yeah, based on their perceived needs and even just my particular preference in the board, I would go with Hill as well. Alex described it perfectly. I just think he fits what they would I think, want to do and what they do need. I can see Michael Davis being the outside corner. I don't really want to see Alohi Gilman or Mark Webb be that third safety or whatever. So I do think Dax Hill contributes more this year, and so I'll take him.
Yeah, and Daxton Hill is the last first round grade for me. I know he's last on your first round grades too, right, Tyler?
Dax Hill?
Yeah.
He doesn't have first round from me.
Oh, okay. I thought that. So who's your last first grade?
Kyle Hamilton. I mean, in terms of like the number, I think it's like Trent McDuffie, Kyle Hamilton, Andrew Booth, those guys.
Okay.
But Gordon doesn't have a first round grade from me.
No, yeah, Kyler Gordon doesn't have a first round grade for me either. So like my preference, of course, would be Daxton Hill, who does have a first round grade for me. He's I think an immediate impact player. And something that I wrote about in my mock draft for LAFB, which is out now. I had them taking a safety later on, and it's like, the Charger. We talked a little bit about Chris Harris in the spaces yesterday, and kind of what upgrading the slot would do for the Chargers, and really upgrading that third safety would have a very similar effect, because last year, when Derwin James was injured, or even late in the season when they were kind of experimenting with Nasir Adderley in the box a little bit more. It left Trey Marshall, Alohi Gilman, whoever you want to insert there on an island in the deep part of the field way too often. So, I mean, you can take Daxton Hill, get really creative with him and Nasir Adderley and Derwin James, and really have three legitimate starting pieces. So my pick would be Daxton Hill, but I think they would choose Kyler Gordon.
So from Robert Carper, he says, Popper said Chargers would not take a safety at 17. How much of that do you think is related to, like, do you think that's about Hill? I'm sure someone was asking about Hill.
Yeah.
But he's not really just a safety. Like, that's not
right.
really what he is. So do you think Hill would be included in Popper's comments here?
I think this would more apply to Lewis Seen or Kyle Hamilton or Jaquan Brisker, of course. I don't think Brisker is going in the first round, but, we've heard a little bit of buzz for Lewis Seen. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton is that perceived safety one, but I think Daxton Hill is versatile enough where he would be of interest for them. Maybe not at 17, but I think you can justifiably say that Daxton Hill, he might be the best slot corner in this draft right now. And I think he gives you enough versatility to kind of justify him taking Daxton Hill at 17, I guess.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because to me, not taking a safety at 17 probably also implies Kyle Hamilton is not available at 17. So I would think that if he is, that the Chargers at least consider it. I mean, we know his versatility that he has. Obviously, the Notre Dame logo on his helmet contributes to some of this as well. So I wouldn't say there's no chance of a safety at 17 if the Kyle Hamilton kind of slide is real. I don't tend to believe that it is real, though. So if you're just talking about, Hill and Seen and Brisker, then no, I don't think the Chargers would take any of those guys at 17.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So there's a lot of Derek Stingley comments right now. Moose saying we're taking Williams, Cross, or Stingley at 17. I don't think any of those three players will be there.
I hope so, man.
Love the optimism.
I know. I'm sorry. I don't know how to Adhere. I don't know. Like Adhere, I'm guessing is how you pronounce that. I keep saying Stingley is the missing piece to our Super Bowl title. I believe that. I think Derek Stingley is a fantastic player. I don't think he's going to be on the board at 17. I think he's going in the top 10. So you probably have to trade up ahead of the Giants at 7 to get Derek Stingley, and that would require trading next year's first round pick to jump up that far. And so I don't know if that is a feasible thing for the Chargers to do.
I am really interested, and Arjun actually pointed this out in our Twitter spaces yesterday, what the Giants and Jets do, because they're teams that have so many needs, and that can kind of affect where you get the Chargers on the board, right? If one of them takes Stingley, or let's say they even go Stingley and Sauce, respectively, then that kind of creates the run on corners, and maybe there's no corners by the time the Chargers pick at 17, or they both go in another direction, take a wide receiver and an offensive tackle, and then suddenly there's a lot more corner options available for the Chargers at 17, McDuffie potentially being there as well. So I think that's really one to watch when you look at the potential run on corners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about the guys in front of the Chargers in a bit, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, Kevin pointed out there's a rumor today that the Texans are interested in Derek Stingley at number 3. It makes a lot of sense, right? That, you know, they can afford to take a big swing at this point in the stage of their rebuild. I think his odds went from like plus 250 on Monday to like minus 200 to go in the top 5. So there's certainly a lot of buzz gaining about that potentially happening. But I don't know. Like, there's also an argument to be had that you take Sauce Gardner at 3, much safer evaluation for a team that really needs to start hitting on prospects and doing that immediately. So
yeah, I mean, I also heard a Texans Garrett Wilson rumor the other day, so I don't know what to believe. They could go wide receiver, corner, any position. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that the top 10 is so interesting because it can unfold so many ways. Like, there's a lot of Charles Cross to the Giants rumors, and it's like, well, what if Evan Neal is on the board for them? Are they still taking Cross over Evan Neal? You know, what happens if they take a corner at 5, and then, you know, the Panthers take Charles Cross at 6 instead of taking a quarterback, like everybody kind of thinks. So
yeah, we know. Well, we know the Texans aren't taking a quarterback because they have famous Charger killer Davis Mills. So I mean, he's staying there.
I mean, there's a lot of love for Davis Mills around the league, man, and I think maybe a little hyperbolic, but a few very respectable media members have said that Davis Mills would be QB1 in this draft. I don't know if I would go that far or believe that, but the Texans like him, and I think Pep Hamilton likes him and is going to give him at least this full year to see what they have there.
Probably QB2 or 3. I wouldn't see him leaving Willis in this one, but
yeah. All right, a couple other questions. We talked a lot about Mekhi Becton on our spaces yesterday. Don't really want to revisit all of that again. Ian Rappaport saying that Mekhi Becton is not really available. Apparently, Peter King has Kayvon Thibodeau falling to 13 in his mock draft. Any chance the Chargers could trade up, even though it's not a true position of need? So we kind of talked about trade up a lot already, but the Kayvon Thibodeau stuff is so annoying, man. Like, there's talk now that Jermaine Johnson is going in front of him as early as 7 to the Giants. I don't understand why Kayvon Thibodeau is like this year's. He's falling in the draft according to the media, and I don't get it. Like, Kayvon Thibodeau is a fantastic player. I almost consider making him edge 1 over Aiden Hutchinson.
Me too.
But like, this is ridiculous. Like, I love Jermaine Johnson, but taking him over Kayvon Thibodeau, man, like, never a chance. No chance I would even consider that.
Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau just seems kind of like a symptom of we get to April and we start overthinking things because all the conversation, February, March, and everything else was, okay, he's the second best edge rusher, and at worst, he's probably going top 5. Right, like that was kind of the conversation with him, and so then people like developed questions about his work ethic and stuff like that. I just don't see it. I mean, the tape at Oregon shows that he's the second best edge rusher in this class, and he's a freak build and projects to be a great edge rusher. I don't understand it at all. It seems like all the media members really do think he will fall. That's not like just, trying to like throw him under the bus. It's just what they think will happen. Like Mike Garafolo and Benjamin Albright and others have said. But I don't really understand why.
No, me neither. I mean, it really doesn't matter to the Chargers, but or to us really, but I would hate to see, not that these other guys don't deserve it, but if like Walker goes before Evan Neal and Kayvon Thibodeau, like I just don't know what we're watching. Like, what did the Giants do? What did the Texans do? What are you doing that for?
Yeah, I don't know. So let's get this NFL mock draft database simulation up here. We're gonna do just a very quick run through of this simulation and kind of just talk about not who we have the Chargers taking, but who we think is kind of going before the Chargers are ultimately on the clock at 17. So are we thinking the Jaguars do actually end up trading or taking Trayvon Walker here? Obviously, they did extend Cam Robinson today, so that kind of feels like all the tackle hype that was happening is officially dead here. So Trayvon Walker at 1, or you guys think they do end up taking the safer Aiden Hutchinson?
I think they end up taking Walker. When the Vegas odds shift, that's where I shift, and they've all shifted to the house on Walker. So I do believe that's kind of what they're going to do. And the Cam Robinson stuff bolsters it. And we do think that Hutchinson is kind of the shoe in it to Detroit, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm still going Hutchinson. I don't want to say that. I hope an NFL team's not that dumb. Because I do like Walker.
I don't.
They are that dumb.
They are that dumb.
Are dumb.
They just gave Christian Kirk like the GDP of small island. So I mean, I don't know. Like
of your small island, the one that you're on.
I think Christian Kirk's salary is bigger than the GDP of my island. But yeah, I think that this is the Trayvon Walker spot. Probably. I don't get it, but it seems like it's been trending that way.
All right, let's put Trayvon Walker at 1, and then I think we can not even have a discussion. Aiden Hutchinson at 2. That would be just a no-brainer for them. Like we said earlier, interesting spot here at number 3. I think Derek Stingley and potentially Evan Neal would be like the 2 to debate here. Although I would probably take Kayvon Thibodeau just because, now you're looking at a very grim group of pass rushers. What do you guys think Texans do at 3?
This is one where they have so many holes that like any of them would be good.
I think Derek Stingley is currently the favorite there.
Let's pencil him in. I mean, I'm fine with penciling him in there. I could also see them going wide receiver if they wanted to, just to like get Davis Mills a weapon. But I do think they probably value bolstering that defense because they're really starting from scratch there.
Mm-hmm. Sure, we can do Stingley. I mean, we're just taking players to get rid of ones in front of the Chargers. So,
if Ike Ekwonu is on the board for the Jets, they are taking him. That is without a doubt happening for me, and I think most Jets media have said pretty much that Ike Ekwonu is like Joe Douglas's wet dream at this point.
Well,
I think Kayvon Thibodeau here at 5. I could also, they really like Cross. Obviously, I think you could make an argument for Evan Neal, but with the way that this kind of panned out, I would lean Thibodeau. But
I think I'd lean Gardner here for the Giants. I don't know because they might trade Bradbury stuff, and I just don't know how far Thibodeau is going to slide. I would pencil him in here, and I would take him if I were the Giants, but it seems like teams have an issue with him, so I really don't know where to place him. But I'm fine with whatever we do here.
Let's do Sauce. Yeah, let's do Sauce.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, they're both going to be gone for the Chargers, so I guess it doesn't matter. But
here, I think if this is the board, I don't buy that the Panthers taking a quarterback personally. So
I buy it because they're dumb and they're going to take Kenny Pickett.
I honestly do. But if someone's going to make that move, I kind of buy it.
I think it would be Willis, though. If they're taking a quarterback, I think it's Willis. He's the favorite, Alex. You keep on saying Vegas. Willis is the favorite to be the first quarterback taken.
I think the Panthers are really dumb. And this was evidenced by trading for Sam Darnold in the first place.
Do not disagree there.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I'm kind of being slanted a little bit here by Albright's mock draft where he had them going Kenny Pickett. This could also, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like any of the 3 of them between Willis, Pickett, or Corral. All 3 of them have kind of like been in that slot in mock drafts, but in general, I think you can pencil in quarterback at this point.
Yeah. All right, let's do Kenny Pickett, I guess. Whatever.
I mean, either way, I think there's
Whatever.
one quarterback going before 17. So if that's the quarterback, we just for a placeholder.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right, here I think the Charles Cross buzz for the Giants is legitimate. So I would say let's put Cross at 7.
That sounds good.
Sure.
And then Falcons at 8. Their offensive tackle situation is frankly really good. It's like the only thing that's good on their roster. So this is, for me, it would be Kayvon or Kyle Hamilton.
Or Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, I was going to say this could be the spot where Wilson goes first.
Yeah, I would be disgusted to watch him with Marcus Mariota, but I mean, I guess they can start somewhere.
But no, I mean, I still think it would be Thibodeau at this
Yeah.
point. But I think this is where you start talking about wide receiver.
Yeah. Let's put Kayvon at 8 here.
Okay.
And then 9, I would think that this would be a very likely trade down spot. But I mean, the Seahawks have 0 offensive tackles on their roster, so I feel like this has to be Evan Neal.
Not yeah, put Evan Neal there, but not like they have a quarterback to protect anymore.
I mean, they like Drew Lock, man, like they do. So I think their kind of plan of attack is going to be to trade back up in the first round and get a 5th-year option quarterback, and maybe that's Matt Corral or Desmond Ridder or something. But I think at 9, I think they're taking whichever offensive tackle is best available, and that's Evan Neal here.
Third tackle.
All right, Jets. I think this has to be a receiver. So
Yeah.
I think Garrett Wilson is a little redundant to what they actually have.
Probably Drake.
So I would think this is Drake or Jameson.
Probably Drake.
I buy Drake.
All right,
that seems to be the buzzy one anyway.
Yeah. Ron Rivera loves Ohio State guys. Very easy pick here for me. Garrett Wilson at 11.
Yeah.
Sure.
That makes sense. Oh, please don't make me watch Garrett Wilson with Carson Wentz. Are you fucking? Oh God! Oh no!
They're gonna sweep the Eagles.
Oh no! Please.
All right, Vikings. There's a lot of secondary talk here. I think this could be a Jermaine Johnson possibility as well. There was a lot of talk that they were trying to trade Daniel Hunter, but I feel like they would take Kyle Hamilton at this point, or maybe even Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, I think the value for Kyle Hamilton kind of makes more sense.
Do they need a safety? Like, I know they also were trying to trade.
You're right. I think Harrison Smith is on their roster for 2022, and that's it. So they don't. I don't know who their other safety is, but I mean they're going to be doing the Vic Fangio defense, and they need like a secondary chess piece to kind of make that happen.
Right.
So I would go Hamilton here.
Okay.
Who did we give the Texans earlier? Did we give them
Stingley? Okay. So it'd be very Lovie Smith to take Jermaine here.
Yeah, this sounds like a Jermaine Johnson spot, and we've heard all the buzz that he's like a lock to go top 10, and this is 13. So this kind of sounds like the value.
Okay. Sorry, Ravens.
Dan Jeremiah thinks that unless a pass rusher is on the board for the Ravens, they are taking Jordan Davis. So
yes, hit Jordan Davis, please.
Okay.
Okay, now hit Jameson.
Big one.
Now hit Jameson Williams.
I see. I think you can wait till 18, Alex. I think you can really wait. Yeah.
No.
No, you can't. You can't wait till 18 to take Jameson, man. Unfortunately, I do think that 15 is the floor for Jameson. You know, I think he could go as high as 8 to the Falcons. Like like Tyler was saying, that's where you start talking about receivers. But yeah, I can't see Jameson falling past the Eagles, man.
Yeah, the Saints are just weird. This is where I get to the point in mock drafts, and I think we had a mock draft where was it our 3.0 where the Saints actually took Kenny Pickett or something like that. Yeah. So I don't think they'll go quarterback. I think they go with another player, but I just have no idea.
I mean, again, they don't have a left tackle. They literally do not have one.
Trevor Penning, here he is.
Their current projected starter is James Hurst, who's been mostly a right tackle, mostly a swing tackle. Their pass rush is fine. So, I mean, they have Cam Jordan. They have, what's the other guy's name that went to UTEP, who they traded up for?
Davenport?
Davenport, yeah. So, I don't think it would be Karlaftis. I wouldn't be shocked at Devin Lloyd, because DeMario Davis is getting older, but to me, again, they have 19, so they could probably take Devin Lloyd there. So I think this is
Trevor
Olave or
Penning
Penning. This is,
already plays left tackle, doesn't have to convert positions.
High upside, yeah.
High
Good
upside,
traits.
top 10 physical traits. We're not going to talk
Okay,
about the day 3
yes.
tape. We'll talk with day 1 tape. I think you go with Trevor Penning.
right, but the run on receivers has begun. So
Mm.
this is Olave or Penning for me, and I don't know, man. Like I don't know if I'm confident that they would pass on Olave in favor of Trevor Penning.
Can we get one of those like hypnosis pendulums? Like, you will take Trevor Penning.
I mean,
yeah, they're such a weird team because I don't think they have like one need in particular that's much bigger than the others, but all comes down to what they want the most here. I could see Olave, and maybe they get Olave and try to kind of pair him with Michael Thomas. I don't know.
I think they take Olave.
Gut feeling is that they take Penning, but I think Olave is also a very strong possibility.
I just think dare the Chargers to take Penning. Like, we have Olave. You know, I think if Olave is there at 17, I think the Chargers would take him. But Penning is something like Chargers second guess themselves. Eagles don't take him. We get him at 19 anyway.
All right, if you're in the chat here, let us know if you think the Saints would take Penning or Olave right now. Do it quick.
Not wishful thinking. What do you think
not what you want them to do, because I think everybody would want them to take Penning. What do you actually think they would do? So let us know quick, Penning or Olave.
The only thing I'll say is if in this position they have the Eagles take Jameson off the board, you know the Eagles aren't going to go receiver at 18. I don't think the Chargers are super likely to go receiver, although they could still. So if you're the Saints, you could kind of make the bet the Chargers aren't going to take a receiver and then take a tackle and take another receiver at 19, or take the receiver and force the Chargers to kind of take Penning. That's also a possibility. But I wonder with Jameson off the board, that kind of also comes down to like how they have Olave graded too, I guess.
Yeah, Anthony points out, why would you jump the Chargers for a receiver? Tackle makes more sense. So,
but then if the Chargers took Olave, then who do they have for?
That's the thing. Like, I don't think they jumped the Chargers though. Like, I think they just did that to get another first round pick like this year. But
yeah, I mean, at 19 you could take. I mean, they could take. I don't think Burks is going to go top 20, but that's a possibility. You could go Jahan Dotson, who again is very similar to Olave. So. I don't know. I think gut feeling they take Penning if he's there, but I also kind of think that for the Chargers. So I don't know.
Pencil it in for Penning. Have fun with that one.
Well, I mean, all right. So I think we can kind of stop this here, right? But I think this is kind of where we see the board going and who we feel confident in going ahead of the Chargers. So Ty, if you could scroll up a little bit here, I would say obviously Penning has a chance to be there at 17, but I feel confident that everybody else that we took 15 up is going to be off the board for the Chargers. So ultimately this pick is likely coming down to Penning, McDuffie, or Olave.
I agree.
I wish it would be Zion, but I don't.
Who do we think from 15 on up has the biggest chance to fall? I guess we heard about Evan Neal and the potential medical stuff. But yeah,
that's fall in the sense of fall to the Chargers or fall past where we took them.
Fall to the Chargers.
I mean, flavor, it could be Drake London if they just don't want that kind of receiver. Then they just would literally just pass it. Like if we want the speedster, we want the the Garrett Wilson type, we want Olave, whatever. Like London is a particular kind of receiver, and if a team just doesn't want that, they won't take it.
Yeah, I think London would be my choice as well because I'm pretty confident in saying that Wilson and Williams will be selected in the top 15.
Yeah.
So London, I think there's a legitimate chance he falls. Maybe Kyle Hamilton.
Ticket, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. You're right there.
Need a backup quarterback.
Yeah, if you would have asked me this a few weeks ago, I would have maybe said Jermaine Johnson, but now he's potentially going in front of Kayvon Thibodeau and likely a top 10 lock. So I don't know. I think Kyle Hamilton or Drake London would be my choices there.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So gut feeling here, guys, before we head into the draft, who do you think the Chargers kind of leaning towards? If, let's say, Penning, Olave, McDuffie all on the board, who do you think the Chargers pick is?
McDuffie.
Penning.
Ugh.
I hate that I just said that, but I in some order, I think it would be Penning, McDuffie, then Olave, but I could see it being any of them. I just think that they go for that need and then figure out the rest later.
Yeah, I'm with Tyler on this one. I think I would say that McDuffie would be their highest preferred option there. We've seen them go to Derek Stingley's pro day and be very, very active there. Derek Ansley has been very active on the pro day scene. We obviously heard that they really like Kyler Gordon as well. Dan Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, all saying that they think they will prioritize corner. So I think McDuffie is the pick if he's there on the board for the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just the final, not a nail in the coffin. That's very pessimistic, but the fact that they do have a coaching connection, it is a known commodity. I do think that's, again, the fit's kind of weird, of course, because you're like, oh, you have another corner and you have Davis on the roster, but I think that's just a really good future pick for them as well, as much as it is a present pick. So I actually think Penning is third in my opinion here.
Oh, okay.
I think the attitude possible you're an asshole problems will actually deter them. And I think
you could.
Like I legitimately think that's a problem to them. I'm manifesting.
I see you in the victory pink manifesting.
I'm trying so hard. Yes, I think Penning would be third to them of that trio because of that reason, and I hope that they do value like eyeballs and stats and
penalty flags.
So no, I think it all lines up, based off of what, again, the actions that we have seen so far from this team. Brandon Staley talking about, getting more possessions for Justin Herbert, getting more hands on the football and creating more opportunities, I think is a legitimate thing. And there's going to be a lot of people, I was talking yesterday on Twitter about the McDuffie thing, and everybody was like, no, that's such a meh pick. He's too short. He's too small. And it's like, I think that McDuffie does have enough versatility where he could be a safety option for them. They tried to do a little bit of that with Chris Harris last year, but he was too old and too bad and not a good tackler to kind of make it work. So, you get McDuffie as your starting slot. You can keep Asante Samuel Jr. on the outside in this scenario, which I think is frankly better for him as well. And you can rotate the two of them depending on matchups. You can put McDuffie at safety in base packages, allow Nasir Adderley to play box. So I do think, it's a similar conversation with Dax Hill, where you're kind of not just getting a slot corner, you're getting a secondary chess piece to move around and, again, just kind of create havoc back there for the Chargers. Any thoughts there, guys?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I mean, I think the upgrade from Harris to McDuffie makes that pick a lot more attractive, even if you don't want the Chargers to go corner in the first round, or if you're out after Sauce or Stingley, just because McDuffie's not as sexy of a pick. But I think the immediate upgrade that you get there, in addition to obviously already having J.C. Jackson and Asante and Michael Davis in the secondary, I think it would certainly solve a lot of the issues last year. Specifically, not that it would solve Hunter Renfrow, but it would reduce his problems quite a bit.
Yeah, Kevin Kernick pointing out not enough is spoken about McDuffie's run defense too. If he comes in and plays the slot, he'll be an instant upgrade there. For sure. Like, you can do a lot of fun things with McDuffie as a blitzer because he's so fast and his change of direction is so crazy elite. And I think anybody who is doubtful of McDuffie and his ability should really turn on his tape against Michigan. And what he was able to do against them was just really fantastic. And I think speaks more to what he's able to do. Because in the Pac-12, nobody targeted him, man. Like, it was just run opposite of McDuffie, throw opposite of McDuffie, So I think McDuffie really would be a fantastic pick.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd love it.
All right, we'll move on to our secondary topic here, which is our all underrated team. Again, this is more a little applicable to kind of day 2, day 3 picks. So let's start with Tyler. We'll do 2 each, and we'll kind of see how much time we have. We'll go 2 with Tyler, 2 with Alex, 2 with me. Players that we think are potentially underrated. So Tyler, which 2 are you going to mention first here?
Yeah, so we're going underrated here, not best, obviously, so people
Right.
don't kill me in the chat. But I am going with Jarrett Stearns out of Western Kentucky. He's ranked 254th on the consensus big board, and I guess that's where you could take him as well. Maybe he's a round 7 sort of guy, but his 1,902 receiving yards is 5th all time at NCAA history. He's the guy who stood out at the Shrine Bowl and was, you watch his role in college, and it is kind of frustrating to watch. Flat screen, that sort of gadget type receiver. But every once in a while, you can find a play where he dusts a guy down the field. And he did that at the Shrine Bowl as well. This is a player that has met with the Chargers as well, so that's great. Although he was a combine snub, a lot of people really wanted him to go. I think I wrote it down. He's Ryan Fowler's my guy in this draft as well from the Draft Network. I really like him. I obviously had an interview with him. We talked about some of the, one of those downfield attacks and his twitch and how quick he is as well. Not just a gadget guy, but a guy who can win, from the slot, down the field, down the seam, whatever. I also just really like talking to him about the communication he had with his quarterback, where they're always on the same page and they'd be able to signal each other to do this or that. And they'd kind of fool the defense or change the route a certain way, just with a little hand signal. They did that in the breakdown that we did. And then I saw that they did a similar play versus Tariq Woolen. That's what got him against Western Kentucky too. So good guy, productive guy, very, 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 very productive guy. And, I think he's an underrated guy for sure.
All right. Who's your second one though?
Oh, are we going to go offense all or just whatever?
Whatever two you want.
Okay. Let me go with Thomas Booker out of Stanford. I think if you're looking for Fedarian Mathis, but you can't get Fedarian Mathis in the second round or third round or whatever, I think Thomas Booker out of Stanford is a guy you want to go develop. There's a real drop off after him. Yeah, I could say he was Enrique, but he feels like more the pass rusher. But if you want more of a
defensive tackle class dries up for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And Booker on the consensus board does feel like one of the last guys who has legit playing like power and potential. And he is number 1 in run stops of our defensive tackle. So there's obviously something there. He's kind of be your 4-eye, 5-tech sort of guy. He's a guy who stood out the Shrine Bowl as well. He also has met with the Chargers. He's so fast off the line. He's so powerful. You can see it at the Shrine Bowl reps. He just needs to learn the next part. Like, you can stack. How do you shed? You're fast off the line, but how do you win? What kind of pass rush moves do you have? But that's a really toolsy guy who can win with power, who can win with speed. Just teach him how to do something after that. And I think you have a really, really good player. And if you can't get Fedarian Mathis early, I think 2-3 rounds later, Thomas Booker is a really good get.
Yeah, as it pertains to Thomas Booker, I think he was one of the better defensive tackles in the Pac-12 in the last 2 seasons. And I think one of the things that stood out to me when researching him, when watching him, Brett Coleman said that he was like the smartest football player that he's ever interviewed. And apparently is doing fantastic in his other interviews, which is very on par. So I definitely think he's a fit for the Chargers. I mean, that just screams what Brandon Staley wants to do. Just very high IQ, high character, Stanford kind of player. Not necessarily like that they love Stanford or anything, but just that you can kind of work on the technique. You can't teach that kind of brain. And I think that's what Brandon Staley would like. Alex, who are your first 2 guys that you want to mention as people who are underrated?
Yeah, I'll mention 2. I'll start with a guy that we haven't talked a whole lot about in Nicholas Petit-Frere. We talked about him initially in our offensive tackles episode. I think I had him ranked around 8th. I think you guys had him around the same range. I think that he is a guy that, because of the drop-off after Neal and Ekwonu and all those guys, is kind of slept on a little bit. Obviously didn't test the best in terms of RAS, and I think that's kind of what prevented any hype train from really starting from him. But he was the number 1 tackle out of high school, and obviously has experience at both left tackle and right tackle, which I think is really valuable. If you're going to take him in the 3rd or 4th round, I do think that is seriously good value, especially if you're talking about someone who's like offensive tackle 8. So yeah, for me, I think he's a guy where if the Chargers do not take an offensive tackle in round 1, I wouldn't mind taking a shot on him on day 2, potentially one of those, or I was about to say one of those picks, the one pick that they have on day 2. I think could be spent on a Nicholas Petit-Frere kind of player who is kind of pro-ready as of now and can kind of make an instant impact. One of the few offensive tackles in that range that I think can do so before you get into like the Max Mitchell kind of developmental prospects. And then the other one I'll talk about, this is sort of a day 3 guy more so than a day 2 guy, but I do think Joey Blunt deserves some consideration.
Nice.
I took him in our dueling mock drafts, but just tested like an absolute freak at the combine.
Yeah.
He is a great tackler, and I think he's kind of going to make an instant impact wherever he goes in the NFL. I think he's probably at this point a 6th, 7th round pick that's going to like sort of fight for playing time a little bit. But if you ask me, am I going to take like the upside of a Mark Webb or an Alohi Gilman or Joey Blunt? I'm kind of going to lean that Joey Blunt is a little bit more my type of player than those guys. And I think that he's the guy that the Chargers would obviously love to have on defense. Not really like a Swiss Army knife type of player, but just a guy who can do everything you're asking him to. And obviously it comes with the requisite physical skill set. So for me, if you're taking a safety on day 3, I would go with Joey Blunt. If you're taking maybe a sleeper tackle on day 2, I do think Nicholas Petit-Frere has gotten a little bit slept on.
Yeah, Joey Blunt, man, like from a speed and athletic profile, I think he was a 4.39 at his pro day. So you're probably looking at like a low 4.4 kind of athlete. And, him and JT Woods, I feel like are in very similar ability levels. And I think, the Chargers taking one of those players would be great for that secondary, get like we talked about with, Daxton Hill. They do not have the requisite athletes on the back end to allow Nasir Adderley to be flexible, and to get JT Woods, get Joey Blunt, I think would be a fantastic call. And I think Blunt went on a top 30 visit, so they're obviously interested in him.
Yes, they are.
Petit-Frere, when I watched him at first glance, he was getting like back end first, early 2nd round pick, and that really kind of that messed with my expectations a little bit. I was expecting a significantly better player, and I think in terms of his technique, he's very advanced with his hand placement. I think he does kind of have the best hand placement of that 2nd and 3rd tier offensive line group. But I think the thing there is like you just wish he had a little more juice to him and played with more juice and effort, and so kind of gave me like discount Alex Leatherwood vibes. And if you're taking that in the 3rd, I think that's fine, right? But if you're taking
the problem is Alex Leatherwood went the 1st.
Yes,
so I mean, the whole 2 rounds later is not bad.
No, but there's definitely some things to work with Petit-Frere, and like I said, a very fantastic pass blocker. Would be pretty happy with him if that's the 3rd round pick, but round 2, like absolutely not.
Yeah, I think he was a late 2nd for me, and then that was a 3rd round grade for me. I'm looking at my notes, and at the time I wrote, I don't like this guy as much as a consensus, because at that time he was getting that 1st round, sort of buzz, and I'm like, I don't know about that. But he is good or kind of average at everything. I think he's best in the run game, but he's actually like good. It just, to me, it's like a gut feeling sort of thing. Like Leatherwood wasn't a bad tackle prospect, but there was something about watching him that pushed him down my board consistently, and it nagged me and it bugged me. And then, I'm not saying that's the reason he didn't do as well this season, but like it translated. Like, I'm not saying that's exactly why, but that gut feeling stuck, and then the results were terrible. So when I had that same feeling with Petit-Frere, even though I recognize that there's a lot of good qualities, he's number 9 for me on my rankings. I don't know if I changed that on my grade board, but he was ranked 9th for me at the time. So but I do think he is, like you're saying, he's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like everyone's just kind of skipping to Mitchell, to Lucas, to Deitch, or whatever. And I think a lot of people are forgetting about Petit-Frere. Are we forgetting about Petit-Frere, or are we just never drafting in the 2nd round? So we just have not talked about him whatsoever.
I think that's what more
I don't think we're forgetting about him, but I do think there's been he was probably like OT 5 in consensus when we did our episode, and now he's probably like 8 or 9. So that's where I feel like it's kind of slipped to.
Yeah. So I think that's a good one. So I've talked a lot about a couple guys here. I mean, I've talked about Bo Melton a ton, but I'm not going to choose him. So I'm going to give some shine again to Jacory Robertson, somebody that I'm really kind of championing for day 3. And, Tyler did this video about Chris Olave at 17. And, well, Olave is behind a lot of guys in a lot of categories. And Robertson is one of those guys. And I think a lot of people would be very surprised to kind of see where Robertson stacks up. And so, ultimately, when you look at the data that Pro Football Focus tracks for receivers, Robertson was tied for 10th in the class in yards per reception, ahead of Olave, Garrett Wilson, Sky Moore, and others, of course. He was tied for 14th in yards per route run, again, ahead of Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jahan Dotson, John Mechie. He had the second most contested catches in the class, behind only Drake London, and the 7th lowest drop percentage, ahead of guys like David Bell, Jalen Tolbert, Khalil Shakir. And he had the 15th best RES score of any receiver in this class. So he is not like the fastest guy. I think he's kind of a high 4.4 player, but I think he's one of the more underrated players in this class, and the numbers really back that up. So I think his film is fantastic. He's not super clean as a separator or route runner, but what I do really like there is that he has a fantastic release package, which is something that me and Jason talked about on Twitter. He's able to beat press man. He's able to be physical. It gives you a little bit of juice after the catch, but that's definitely not his specialty. But I think that's kind of your ideal receiver pick and stash for a year. Replace Jalen Guyton next year. So I'm a big fan of Jacory Robertson.
Yeah, me too. I wouldn't have watched him, honestly, if the Chargers had not met with him, but I watched him like, okay, who's this, undrafted free agent priority guy? And I really did like him quite a bit. And like I pointed out, he's the exact same height as Jalen Guyton. You're losing the speed, but you're going to get a much better route runner, guy with much better hands. A lot of screens and stuff in his, like they asked him to do a lot of that sort of stuff. So the drop rate is probably, affected by that, of course. But then you'll watch him extend and actually catch it. Like Jalen Guyton, if we don't remember what happened in like late 2019 in the Jags game, early 2020 training camp, it was just like,
alligator arms.
Yeah, alligator arms the whole time. And so I think in that regard, Jacory Robertson is a bit more advanced. And maybe he can't separate with the speed naturally, but he is a better route runner, I think, definitely than Jalen Guyton at the time, and then maybe even right now.
Yeah. So my next one I want to mention here is, of course, Neil Farrell, who we've talked about a little bit. He was Pro Football Focus's highest graded run defender in the entire country among defensive linemen with at least 20% of their respective snaps this past season. He had 24 run stops last year, which is more than Fidarian Mathis, Jordan Davis, and Devontae Wyatt. His 11.4 run stop percentage was identical to Devontae Wyatt's. He had 24 total pressures as well, which is more than pass rushing defensive tackles like Thomas Booker and Haskell Garrett. The likely top 15 pick, I mentioned Jordan Davis, had 14 total pressures in 15 games last year, and Neil Farrell had 24 in 11. So just to kind of point that, he had a pass rush win rate that was one spot lower than Perion Winfrey. So I think you kind of look at Neil Farrell, you look at his RAS page and his athletic profile, and you think of somebody who's just like this stereotypical run stuffing nose tackle, but that's not what you see on tape. It's not what you see on the numbers. And you look at Neil Farrell as somebody that could be like a 6th, 7th round pick. I think that's ridiculously good value. So I think he's maybe a tad redundant for the Chargers with what they have, but his skill set and his production and his tape to me suggests that he should be kind of a 4th round player. And every time I run a mock draft simulation, he's in a 6th, 7th round. If you do it through TDN, he goes undrafted almost every single time. So I'm a huge fan of Neil Farrell and what you see on tape and what you see on the stat sheet.
Yeah, me too. Neil Farrell Jr. I was going to do an interview with him, so I had prepared all this film, but I had clip outs of so many. Like you think he's that stereotypical nose tackle. He's going as late as like a Marcan McCall, or however you say his name, who's literally just a plug in the middle of the defense. But then I break all this film down, or at least chop it up, and you see him, is attacking a half man. He's got a spin move for some reason. He's got a club and a swipe. He knows how to attack lever. Like there's so much that Neil Farrell Jr. can offer you, both in the run game and the pass game. I say he's probably arguably one of the most balanced players in that regard, along any edge rusher or interior defensive line. Again, I think he is. He tested like crap, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then he tried to get a little bit better, and I think he got like 0.02 seconds faster in the 40-yard dash, which is improvement. But I'm definitely rooting for him for sure. I kind of hope he doesn't go to the Chargers because I wouldn't know how to root for Braden or Neil in that regard.
Yeah.
I like both of them, and they would be super competitive. But yeah, another player the Chargers have met with. Of course, he's met with every team. But yeah, and I really like Neil Farrell Jr.
Yeah, I think Neil Farrell Jr. is great too. If they want to take a chance on him, I see the testing thing is kind of weird. I mean, just kind of for that big defensive tackle in general. Like Jordan Davis tested like a freak, obviously, but they don't traditionally test that well.
No, they don't.
Given how big they're built. So for me, if that's the reason that you're moving Neil Farrell down your board, I'm kind of like, well, did you watch the film? Maybe because he's pretty good. But so for me, he's definitely one of the more underrated guys in this class. I can't believe that he's consistently like, I guess DT 7 or 8 at this point. Yeah, that's still a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I totally agree there. So let's do one more each. Tyler, another name that you think is really underrated.
Ooh, an underrated player. There's so many. I just want a couple honorable mentions relative to draft position. Like I think Charlie Kolar is underrated for sure. I think compared to Isaiah Likely, Chigozie Okonkwo is underrated because he's like 90 picks later on the board. I'll go with a completely random one then. That he's a 4-3 defensive end that I also interviewed. Jacob Panashuk out of Michigan State. How often do you guys have guys who are like top 10 in pass rush productivity, pass rush win rate, 73 pressures, 11 sacks, 32 run stops last year, and he's in like the 400s or something? I have no idea why, but that is a high level of production at a good program. He also has a brother who played defensive tackle for the Panthers and Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. So there's some NFL blood there too. I think if you can, I don't know why he's going so late on these boards, or just nobody's watched him, but somewhere in the 7th round, or is an undrafted free agent somehow, is a guy at Michigan State who had 73 pressures, 11 sacks, 32 run stops. He can win outside. He can win inside. He broke that down for me. I think he's a pretty solid player. I haven't graded him, but just a bit I've watched of him, I don't understand why he's not even in like the 200s for boards.
Yeah, very similar vibes to current Charger Joe Gaziano there. And
yeah.
So, Alex, who's your one other one you want to mention, or potentially 2 or 3 like Tyler did?
Okay.
I'll mention one that I think has kind of been forgotten. Like it feels like as Sky Moore and all of those guys really shot up the boards, John Mechie either went down or he stayed kind of flat around like the 10th receiver taken. So for me, I think he's a guy that definitely became underrated process. Part of that is he didn't end up testing, right? I would imagine.
No, he didn't test.
Yeah, I would imagine he didn't test. And so if he did run some freakishly fast 40 and did all that, then he'd probably be not in that tier 1 of receivers, but I definitely think probably one of them that would have gone towards the end of the 1st round, but now they're talking about as like a mid-2nd round or maybe end of the 2nd round guy. So for me, obviously there's the Alabama factor. I don't think he has a lot of like elite traits, but he does everything pretty well. In the same way that we talked about with like Nicholas Petit-Frere, for example. So for me, he sounds like, I hate saying this, but he sounds like such a maybe Patriots pick down the road of this draft. Obviously they don't draft good receivers in the 1st round at all, but
do they draft good receivers at all, period?
That's true. Maybe he's not a Patriots pick, but I do think he's gonna get a team some good value when he's sort of been slept on relative to obviously his teammate in Jameson Williams and really the other 1st round guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good call because that's what's happening with Andrew Booth a little bit. I think his medical concerns are a little more extensive, right? But there's no buzz about these guys because they're not doing any of the process.
Right.
So my honorable mention that I'll say that I'm not going to talk a whole lot about is Smoke Monday, the safety from Auburn. I think he fits a lot of what the NFL really values in terms of like that 6 defensive back, dime backer kind of player that we saw, of course, like Adrian Phillips carve out a very significant role with, and the Raiders have the Virginia Tech guy. shoot, what's his name?
The Raiders have
Divine
really used-
Diablo. There we go.
The Raiders have
Divine
really used-
Diablo. There we go.
Oh, okay.
So I think Smoke Monday could absolutely carve out a significant role there. I think for me, when it comes to offensive line sleepers, because that's obviously like what I care most about, is Zach Tom, the offensive lineman from Wake Forest. So he's not necessarily like an elite athlete. I think he tested in the great category in pretty much every category except for size. So I think he is kind of that discount Rashawn Slater in a sense of he's just a really freaking good technician, man. I think you rarely saw him get beat on tape. Started out his career at Wake Forest as a center and then kicked out to left tackle for them as they kind of pivoted towards a more pass happy approach. And so I don't necessarily know where his best position is, but I think he could come in and really be that second, third round version of what we were all talking about with Elijah Vera Tucker and Rashawn Slater last year, where you are getting a player that you just want on the field and you can kind of figure out the positions later. So I think specifically for the Chargers, like you could potentially see him be a right tackle. If he's not, you could play him at guard. He could be a potential Corey Linsley replacement at center down the road. And so he's absolutely somebody that I'm interested in for the Chargers, somebody that I think would be a fantastic value for them in the third round. He is number 59 overall on my board, so he just barely missed that top 50 cutoff, but I think he's just a really solid, fantastic player. He's got the length, he's got the size that they really like when it comes to tackle guard converts. And if you put him at guard, him and Brendan Hymas have like nearly identical scores. So Zach Tom, definitely somebody that I am keeping an eye on this weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, good call. Senior Bowl? Shrine Bowl.
Shrine Bowl, I think.
Okay. I don't know. I'll throw another lineman out there because I really want to talk about like him. Nick Ford. To me, he's like arguably on the consensus board the most underrated player because he's like 42nd among interior offensive linemen. He's not like if you want like top 20, I think would be fair.
Yeah.
If you want to say not top 15, that's fine. But he's not 40th among interior offensive linemen. Not that I've watched all of them, but I just don't buy it.
Yeah, obviously I love Nick Ford. He's a fantastic, player. I think a little overlooked, like we talked about, his pass blocking efficiency rating is tied with Zion Johnson. Like you never see him make mistakes as a pass blocker. His mistakes come as a snapper, which is why I think he'd be better at guard. But he didn't get to participate in any of the All-Star games because he was still listed as a junior due to COVID. That's kind of what Utah did, unfortunately, with all their guys. They just kind of kept their eligibility as the same. And so he didn't even get invited to anywhere. And I think, you look at guys that were at those games, and Nick Ford should have absolutely been invited to at least the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. But, Utah has a pro-style offense. They have a very versatile running scheme. They do a lot of zone, a lot of power. They do traditional passing looks. So, Nick Ford is ready for the pros, man. Like he is. I think it's just a matter of there was not hype about him at all because he wasn't in any of the All-Star games.
I'll throw out another offensive lineman. I think you look at Rasheed Walker, and yes, he's stolen a couple of bikes here and there, but you look at how he did against the best competition, and he did hold up well, had some flashes. So if you take him in the fourth round, I don't think that's a bad investment.
I think a top competition outside of David Ojabo. I think David.
Okay, well, not that one, but had some good battles against David.
It's not the top competition, like the second top.
The second tier. No, so I ended up putting Rasheed Walker in my top 10 at offensive tackle.
Go.
So I moved him up 2 spots and put him at 10. So I like him. I think he would be a good schematic fit for the Chargers. He's kind of like that last tackle that I would take and feel okay about starting right away at right tackle. So I think he's a good fit there. Ryan Thomas mentioned Danny Gray in the chat. I think that's an excellent call as well. Somebody that, again, this class is just full of 5'11", 4'3" speed guys, and Danny Gray is definitely one of them. Definitely has some good juice to him for sure.
But let's take one at 17.
All right. So, guys, any final predictions ahead of the draft before we head out for this afternoon?
I did just want to bring up one thing because I think Brad talked about it and somebody else talked about it. Now Doug Kayet has mocked Devin Lloyd to the Chargers at 17. does Pro Football Focus know something about what the Chargers are doing? Because they seem to be rolling around linebacker at 17.
Yeah, don't know what to think there. I personally am going to predict that we draft Trevor Penning to protect myself against the devastation that will happen if that happens, and I will be pleasantly surprised if it is any other player. So that's where I'm setting up my camp.
Yeah, I will cheer louder for the Saints taking Penning at 16 than I will for whoever the Chargers take at 17.
In all seriousness, like, I think Trevor Penning, I at least understand the positional value and I understand the process. So as long as they're not trading up, I will be okay. Like I will have to cope for it for a minute, but I will be okay. I understand it. Again, don't trade up, and then you can kind of take Trent McDuffie, who I do think will be the pick. But I think you can get one of these offensive linemen later in the draft and feel at least, okay about them starting right away. So I think you can't get a player like Trent McDuffie later. I just don't. But, we'll see. As it pertains to the linebacker conversation, as I have always said, I would absolutely love Devin Lloyd on this team. I would buy that jersey the second it came available. But I just can't see Brandon Staley taking a linebacker that early, man. And again, that's another position that you can find later. You can get, Chad Muma or somebody else later on in the draft. We talked about Chance Campbell a little bit on this show. I think that's a very natural Kaiser White replacement. So this linebacker class is deep. The value is not there. And Brandon Staley being, somebody that's talked a lot about value and trading a second for Khalil Mack because of the value. I can't see him taking a linebacker at 17.
Yeah, me either. I don't think they take a linebacker at 17. I'm curious to see what PFF knows that we don't about that. But yeah, maybe we have to slide into Arjun's DMs and find that out. But I don't think that I don't think they take a linebacker.
Yeah, I know. I keep on seeing this comment about, well, nobody wanted Justin Herbert either, but it's like, but Justin Herbert was a good quarterback prospect.
Justin Herbert also did good at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, again, it's also a quarterback value.
That's also the positional difference, right? If you're taking a quarterback, you're setting yourself up. If you hit, then your franchise is set. Versus the difference between hitting or missing on a left tackle, I think is a little bit different in terms of the ceiling and floor argument. And they're in this position because they hit on Justin Herbert, and so they have to win now. Versus, if Trevor Penning was 2 drafts ago, I mean, maybe they would be putting themselves in that position instead. But I don't think it's the same thing. I mean, you can hope for anything, but if you take guys who have questionable traits or questionable tape coming out of college, one of them's bound not to hit.
Yeah, I love seeing all the spam bots in here. It's fantastic. So much fun. All right, man. Well, I'm super excited. We get to Vegas early on. This is going to be my first draft, obviously attending in person. I've always wanted to do this.
So excited.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see all the chaos and how it kind of pans out before the Chargers are on the clock. So, as we've said before, Alex is going to be handling the live stream tomorrow. He's going to be going live at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Maddie Schmidt is going to be joining him as his co-host, and he'll also have some special guests, including Gavino Borges and Jason Reed from Chargers Wire and Bolt Beat, respectively. So, going to be a lot of fun there.
Yeah. Then on day 2, we will also be doing a stream. Gavino suggested the day 2 idea, so we're doing a day 2 stream. He's a draft junkie, and I respect it. And do you want to pronounce Kyle's last name, Tyler?
I don't know how to say it, but I think it's De Dominicantanio.
Yeah, Kyle De Dominicantanio will be joining us for that as well. As Tyler's done a couple videos.
Wazarike.
Wazarike.
There you go.
Yeah, so
Kyle's joining on day 2?
Yeah, on day 2. Kyle and
all right. Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, and so Tyler, Arjun, and I are going to be recording in the Blue Wire studio on Friday morning. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll post that episode as soon as we have it recorded and be able to share that out. So Alex is going to do all the live streaming. It's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to hear how that one goes. And yeah, man, this is just this is like Christmas Eve for me. I love the draft so much, and I can't wait to see how everything unfolds. So thank you guys for tuning in. I was honestly very surprised at how many people were in this stream this afternoon. So hope you enjoyed it. Again, as always, if you're listening to this, please leave us a rating or review on a podcast platform of your choice. And that's going to do it for us. Our pre-draft coverage is officially over. So we will have you guys covered this week with everything that we can possibly imagine. So stay tuned for all of that and stay safe. We'll see you guys later.